Hey, what's going on, everybody? So Casey Bitzel back here once again, and if you watched the last video on how to confirm that you are following a structured and by the guide 5-in-1 program, then awesome. Then this is going to be the next step, because once you accomplish your goal, which is going to happen, okay, if you follow the program, when you follow the program, this is going to be your next step, because now it's time to transition out of your fueling plan. Now, one thing to keep in mind, guys, a lot of people will continue to use their fuelings, because I've been now a coach for about 9 years now, might be even 10 years. And Candy and I use 2 to 3 fuelings every single day. Sometimes when we're a little bit more structured and maybe, or maybe it's unstructured, maybe a little disorganized, we do more fuelings. And sometimes when we're getting ready for an event, like maybe we're getting ready for a vacation, we just want to tighten up a little bit, we'll use more fuelings once again, because it's proven, guys, it's proven success. When we're in a good swing, maybe we're home or preparing more meals, that kind of thing, then we're probably around 2 to 3 fuelings a day, just because we have some of our favorites. We have a routine that works. I've got my buttermilk biscuit. You guys have all seen that videos and posts that I make almost every single day about my buttermilk biscuit, because I like my buttermilk biscuit. So that's usually my breakfast. And then I also have a sweet tooth. So I do typically a brownie and or a s'mores bar or a drizzled fudge bar. That's just my routine. Okay, it's easy for me, simple. I do love the sugar and cinnamon sticks too. I guess something that I like to do while I'm snacking, while I'm working out at my desk. So a lot of different things. I'll sneak those into the movie theater too. Shh, don't tell no one. All right, so let's dive into the next step. The next step, transition. I love transition, you guys. Like, seriously, here's the thing. I want us all to rip this fat loss, weight loss thing off like a Band-Aid, okay? Because seriously, my favorite part of the habits of transformation and the habits of health is getting into past element 17, okay? Let's just be frank here. That's what I love for people. This is my area of specialty. So while we're all just getting ready to get into element 17 and beyond and living this amazing, thriving, healthy, physically fit lifestyle, which is what we're all really shooting for, I believe, that's where we want to go. That's where I want to take you. So that's why I'm releasing all these kinds of videos and that kind of thing, because let's just get to it, okay? Let's just get to the fun stuff. But in order to do that, we've got to make it through our journey on the 5-in-1, which is going to help you establish the base and the foundation that takes you through the rest of the phases. Okay, so man, you can do it here again when it's based on science and when it's based on numbers. It can happen in the shortest period of time. It can happen over a longer period of time, or it can never happen. But the truth of the matter is that it's all possible if you decide what level you're going to jump into it, okay? So just keep that in mind. But let's dive into this presentation and see where it takes us, all right? All right, guys, here we are, transition, expectations and results. Now, you guys know my thing. I'm not going to say I'm going unplugged. No disrespect to anybody who says they're going unplugged. To me, I'm always unplugged. That just means sometimes I don't tell you all the truth, and right now I'm telling you all the truth. I always tell you all the truth, which is why I sometimes get myself into trouble, okay? So I'm not all Kool-Aid in on any particular, I'm Kool-Aid in on the science of the things. And luckily, our program is so full of science that it all fits. So it's amazing because I get to live in that environment. Our science is sound. Our program is off the hook. The results are going to happen. The predictable transformation, as we all know. We're going to have lifelong healthy habits, one healthy habit at a time. Guys, does it get any better than that? Okay, so here we are in transition. Expectations and results. So don't get angry or frustrated when we go through this, okay? All right, ready? All right, let's do this. Okay. Transition from prepackaged fueling meals. All right, this is all established in your Habits of Health book. This is actually, and your life book right here, down here below. This is element 14, page 277. So let's dive into what this really means. Once you've achieved your healthy weight, you're ready to make the transition to lifelong healthy eating. The transition phase gradually increases your calorie intake and reintroduces a wider variety of foods. The calories you need after transition to maintain your weight varies according to height, weight, gender, age, and activity level. All right. This 6-week transition leads you to an ultimate goal of fewer than 1,550 calories a day. Okay. This is Lifebook Element 14, page 277. So check it out. Now, as we already know, that was weird. Like that made me dizzy a little bit. As we know, our program has 4 components: our coach, our Habits of Health system, our community, and our fuelings. And like I said before, they're all equally important. However, you'll lean on certain pillars, sometimes a little bit more heavily during certain phases of your program, or as you individually need more assistance, okay, or more companionship, or whatever the case may be. But the cool thing is that you're ultimately in control of your entire destiny by having these available to you. And actually the support materials right here allow you to dive into this and really make a lot of headway with your own personal self and well-being. Okay. Once again, because of my area of expertise, we're diving into the fuelings category again. Okay. We're diving in and we're going to look at the macros on these and show you what this visually looks like, because I feel like there's some disconnect in how people how they come into transition and what they feel about it. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this, like I said. So let's just go on to the next one. Let's just do it. All right. Here's why we do 5 in 1. It's simple, it's structured, it's easy. It eliminates the errors because it's just pre-packaged. You open it up, you eat it. It's really simple. You would have to make a conscious decision to eat more after your fueling if you decided that you weren't going to stick to the plan. Like, you just consciously would make that decision. Then you get to stop, challenge, and choose, and you use the other 3 pillars that we talk about. But this is, again, talking just strictly from a nutritional standpoint. We have appetite control when we're nice and tight on that 5 in 1. We've got energy because we're tapped into stored body fat. So we've got plenty of energy. Remember, 3,500 calories per pound of unwanted body fat, or actually per pound of body fat, because you can literally lose weight until you die. That's called starvation. You'll die. Like, that's when you know you've gone too far. All right. Mental clarity, fixing your hormones, your eat hormones, your leptin, your ghrelin, your CCK, all the things that are infected by your insulin levels, all the things that basically cause havoc in your nutritional program and your ability to stay compliant to it. Delivery of the multivitamin and minerals in frequent and usable dosages, because of the every 2.5 to 3 hours, you get that 20% or so of the RDA in that fueling. That's going to be like eating whole nutritious food. You have it right there. In fact, is actually more nutritious than most foods that are out there. Okay. Get into that debate another time. Probiotics and vitamin D3. That's the 5 in 1. Okay. So that's what we know about the 5 in 1. Now, can we all agree that people of different height and different weights and different genders have different metabolic needs? Okay. Here's our Great Dane and our Chihuahua. 2 completely different bodies. They're both dogs, but 2 completely different bodies. So on previous presentations, we've talked about this before. A 300-pound, 6'4" male on 5 in 1 that has a 2150 calorie deficit is going to lose at about 4.3 pounds a week of body fat, okay, or weight. A 150-pound, 5'4" female, following our 5 in 1 program, will lose about 1.3 pounds a week. So it's different. It's automatically different. So once we know this to be true, we know that people have different metabolic needs and we're going to lose at different rates. And the only thing that we will have control over is how tightly we've established our parameters of our nutrition, so we know how to make adjustments if we need to, or you need to increase activity. So a lack of exercise or activity for a person who's already at a low calorie limit is probably like a sentence of just maintenance, or just staying right there, because you can't eat any less, or you can, but we won't recommend it because you still need to get your nutrients. But you could exercise and move more, and that will help create And even the neat points would qualify for that too. Just move more, right? Okay, now our Great Dane, big body frame, lots of muscle mass. Obviously, that calorie deficit can sometimes be a little bit severe. So we may need to add a little bit more to that calorie deficit so that it's not as drastic or severe, unless that person has a specific reason to need to lose 4.3 pounds a week. But that looks like the 4 and 2, or that looks like the 3 and 3, right? It doesn't have to be completely dropped down to that 5 and 1, although it can be. As long as we got stored body fat, it can easily be done. And a lot of people have done it. And that's what's so awesome, is people who have had success. Thousands of them. Okay. Now, here we go. Okay. The dirty 5 and 1. Here's what we know, guys. The studies support that people will underreport their calories by 40%. Unintentional, intentional, they just straight up do it. And I'm going to add another little tidbit on the second part of this, because this is where people sometimes don't count this as one of the reasons why. But you have your condiments, your gum, your handful guesstimates, like, I think that's like 15 kernels or whatever. You've got your tastes and nibbles, like, I'm just going to finish the kids' plates. You got the coffee creamers. You got the mislabeling or tricky labeling of some of the condiments that you might use that say sugar-free, but yet they have like 14 grams of carbohydrates, right? They may be using sugar alcohols. They might have other things that they don't have to establish on the label, but yet still have an impact on your body. And then, of course, heaping measurements. A tablespoon of peanut butter we talked about in the last video, or a heaping cup of whatever versus just a measured cup, a leveled cup of whatever it is you're consuming. And then, of course, using a scale to know exactly what that looks like, okay? Your nutrition, and this is the tidbit I want to add. This is the thing I think is missed by a lot of people. Your nutrition is an average of your daily, weekly, and monthly intake, okay? This is classic. People will follow a really tight plan for 4 or 5 days out of the week, and then they do something else. I'm not even saying they go off the deep end, but just something else. Your 1,000 calorie day for 5 days, so your 5,000 calories, and then your Saturday of 2,000 calories, if you average that out, that's already an average higher than 1,000 calories. We know on 5 and 1 is 800 to 1,000 calories, so we already are over on average of that amount. So if you're that Chihuahua, you might be already in maintenance. So if you wanted to talk about transition, for many people who have stalled out, you're already there. All right, presentation over. You can shut everything off. No, so guys, seriously, that's the thing though. This is the missing point that most people don't know, is that if you haven't changed in any period of time, you have transitioned into a maintenance. And it most likely is because of excess calories, and your not necessarily your macros, because macros are calories, but your calories are high, your activity is either low, but whatever level, you might be mistakenly doing it, so you don't even know, right? You think that you're following something, but yet because of the underreporting, you're 20, 30, 40% over, and that's your plateau mark, okay? That's why it's important for us to find your BMR and to really take a look at the accountability in your tracking and in your movement tracking even. That's why that's so important, okay? And there's obviously worksheets that you can find on havesahealth.com. There's things that you can track so you can know where you are in your activity, in your steps, in your miles, in your exercise programs, all of that stuff. And I'll give you a couple tips at the end of this. Okay, so let's watch this video. This is a public service announcement.
It's a heart-stopping moment. Has it happened to you yet? If it hasn't, it will. Unless it's prepared.
Oh, so unless you're prepared. Okay, guys, well, that's the whole idea here. We're going to get prepared to make sure that we don't fishtail, okay? Fishtail, whew, that was intense, wasn't it? Okay, so the fishtailing, this is my term for when people are, okay, they're cruising along. Oh man, I got to lose some weight. I got to drop some body fat. Fishtail all the way to 5 and 1. Okay. I'm there. I just dropped 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 100 pounds. And oh my gosh, I'm going to fishtail the other direction because it's Super Bowl Sunday, or it's New Year's, or it's a Christmas party, or it's Christmas month, or it's Thanksgiving, or it's hunting season, or it's fishing season, or whatever. I mean, this is what all the reasons that happen, that people decide that they're going to fishtail the other direction, and we skip that whole transition period. And then we have to fishtail the other direction because the only thing we know is that and that. And the people who have been doing this well for a number of years have been finding that transition section of the Habits of Health, okay, and the Life book, and they've learned control and constraint or restraint or whatever the proper word is there, and moving into the next phases so that they can enjoy. It's almost like a Dave Ramsey thing, guys. Like, we want to live like now so that we can live like nobody else later. I mean, that's the whole thing with this. So, man, that video keeps on coming back to haunt me. It's scary. Okay, so here we are with the 5-in-1. Here's what we know. 5-in-1. We're not going to get into condiments. We're not getting into the snacks, that kind of thing. But here's your 931, your 6 ounces of chicken breast, your 5 feelings, of course, your 3 cups of cauliflower, and your oil. Okay. Here it is with the snacks. We talked about this, and this is my point: is that if you are doing some of these things, then your BMR and your total energy expenditure is low, then you're getting very, very, very close. And you should be able to mathematically determine how far away you are outside of fat burn, because remember, those 2 to 6 pounds, 2 to 4 pounds for sure of getting in and out of fat burn are something that we need to account for. So I don't start counting body fat reduction or body fat increase until after we wash out that glycogen replenishment, okay, or glycogen depletion. Okay, so now we hit our goal. And that's why I also encourage people to hit their goal. Like, if you've always been shooting for 130 and it's within reason that you still have body fat that you could drop down to 125, my recommendation would be to drop down to 125 so that as you come out of transition, you will land at 130, okay? As you increase your lean body mass and then we start looking at body composition, my goal and my hope is that you do not care any longer about what your actual weight is. Because I've seen 135-pound people who are completely shredded, looking amazing and athletic and healthy. And I've seen 135-pound people who don't have the appearance that they were shooting for. Okay, so don't get caught up in that weight once we start going to body composition. I know it's hard. I do enjoy the scale from the standpoint of a scientific data collection. I like to see what happens when I do XYZ. What happens after this? What happens when the next morning? What happens 2 days into fat burn? What happens when I get out of fat burn? Like, those are good benchmarks to look at so that you know, so that you can, so that you're not surprised when that happens. Otherwise, it's too easy to blame the weight loss boogeyman when you get on the scale and it's different than what you would expect. Now, going back to what I said was that if you're in a 500 calorie deficit, you're going to have, and you do this every single day, I can almost guarantee and promise you, outside of medical or medicinal, that you are going to drop at that amount of body fat every single week, okay? Until your BMR and your TEE drop because of your loss of body fat and body weight, and then you have to make an adjustment to a certain extent. That's already built into the Habits of Health. That's your walking program. That's your eat exercise program. It's already built in. It's already accounted for. So technically, you don't need to know any of this stuff. You just need to follow the program and everything will be just fine. All right, so here we go. Transitioning. Sorry about the pixelation on these slides. This is going to drive me crazy, but it is what it is. I'm not redoing them. So, so here's what we got. Transitioning, week 1. We've now added from our 5-in-1, 1 additional cup of vegetables. Okay, you can see how our how we go from 941 to now 968. Okay, some of you guys are going already oofta, because normally you hit your goal and what do? We go out and we celebrate that we hit our goal by 500 additional calories or 1,000 additional calories or whatever. We gain those 2 to 4 pounds of glycogen replenishment. We get on the scale the next day and we're like, I knew I could never eat the way I wanted to because now I'm up 4 pounds again. Now I have to go back on 5-in-1. Or you throw your hands up completely and you say, I give up. okay? Because that's what we're doing. That's a fishtail. That's a fishtail. So your program isn't over after you achieve your weight loss. That's the now getting into the most awesome, exciting part of the program. You hit your goal. Here's the next steps, okay? Week 1, additional cup of vegetables. This is why some of you guys who are over 968 already, you already bypassed week 1. You probably bypassed week 2, week 3, week 4, and you're already in like way above that, okay? And that's why we're frustrated, and that's why we're not seeing the long-term success that we want to, and the rebuild of the metabolism, and the rebuild of the energy, and the complete understanding of how this program is genius in this recomposition, okay? Next, week 2, we take out 1 fueling. We add in 1 cup of fruit. Okay, 1 serving of fruit. Okay, so 2 medium-sized pieces of fruit or 1 cup of berries. For this graphic, I put in 1 cup of berries. You can see that, guys, calories are not, like the calories on this one actually dropped. So now we're 968 down to 920. So the idea that we thought that all of a sudden we're getting all of this additional food because we accomplished our goal, we're not quite there, guys. We have to introduce these foods back into our system, okay? Now, here's Dr. Anderson talking about this in your life book, Element 14, page 275. You may gain as many as 5 pounds in the initial period from transition, spell check, rebuilding your glycogen stores, and an increase in water retention, but this will subside as you increase your activity and refine your habits of healthy eating over time, okay? I believe that's transition from rebuilding, so I'll go ahead and make that correction. So here we are. Oh, that whole turn thing again. I literally get dizzy when that happens. Okay, transition week 3. We have 4 fuelings, okay? We have our normal, everything else stayed the same, our 5 and 1 minus 1 fueling, and we've added the 1 additional cup of vegetables. We added the 2 medium-sized pieces of fruit or the 1 cup of berries, and now we're adding in a dairy. And for this graphic and for the macros, I just chose 1 cup of non-fat Greek yogurt, okay? Here it is. Once again, 1,053. Over here, you can see this. We're going from 5 and 1, 939, 968, 920, 1,053, okay? This isn't a fishtail. This isn't all you can eat buffet yet, all right? Starting to make sense? Now, how many of us like blink if you have been doing transition wrong? Okay, this is another whole week. This is your addition. Now, it should feel awesome because you weren't doing any of this a couple of weeks ago. You were just doing 5 and 1. So now these are celebrations. It's like you ranked up. If you're playing Fortnite, you're like, you got a new dance or something. So let's move on. Transition week 4. Is that right? Transition, maybe I didn't change that graphic. Oh yeah, from 3 to 4. Okay, transition week 4, we add complex carbohydrate, your half a cup of brown rice. And now we can see those carbs now are over 110, well over 110. So chances are you're going to be out of fat burn unless your activity level is at a high level or a higher level at this point, okay? And we just need to guard a little bit against that and know that as we're bringing foods back in, we have more bulk and more quantity of food. We did drop that additional fueling, so now we're at 3 fuelings, and we added the half cup of brown rice. So our fats are still extremely low in this example. Our carbs 110 and our protein 123. Okay, point I want to make about fat burn. There's only ceilings on your protein and your carbohydrates when you are maintaining a solid fat burn. Okay, and the carbohydrates can range a little bit, somewhere between 65 to 85 grams, and the protein is going to be close to your healthy 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. Okay, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. Remember, if we're way high on the BMI, if we're way over on the obesity chart, then your lean body mass is established already at higher levels than it will be once you get at an ideal weight. Okay, you'll have to check that out in Habits of Health and understand exactly what that means. We're not going to get into all that detail, but you will drop organ size, in some cases bone density, obviously visceral body fat, all that stuff comes down, and with that reduced weight, so reduces your BMR. Okay, so something to keep in mind. Now, we are on week 4 if you are exercising. Okay, so this is part of transition week 4. If you're exercising, now you will be adding an additional 4 ounces of lean protein. Okay, because we're no longer concerned now at this level, at this point, with the additions of these foods, that you're trying to maintain a solid fat burn. Okay, we're increasing calories, we're increasing carbohydrates, we haven't increased fats yet. And that's something that we'll talk about on a whole different video, but this is compliant transition according to the guide, okay? 4 ounces of lean protein. This is essentially looking closer to what? Like a 4 and 2 at this point. I mean, it's a 4 and 3, but you can start to see how this is starting to build in that direction. Guys, we're still at 1,248 calories, okay? So we haven't unleashed the calorie beast yet. Now, after the first 4 weeks, you will have introduced all 4 of the food groups that you previously avoided during phase 1. You'll be eating approximately 1,500 calories per day. Over the following weeks, this is the fun part, you'll continue to add calories until you reach your total energy expenditure, either by adding foods to one of your fuelings as outlined in Transition Guide that come with your low-calorie and scientifically formulated meals, or to one of your meals using Dr. Anderson's color-coded color co-ed, man, I got to get a better spell check. Color co-ed portion control system, so color-coded. As an example, if your target TEE was 1,900 calories, this would mean adding 400 calories over the next 4 weeks. An easy way to do this is by adding 100 calories each week until you have reached the permanent healthy eating schedule outlined in the next section. Okay, Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health, page 330, okay? Without the spelling errors. Check it out. All right, let's move on. All right, so just like our Chihuahua, just like our Great Dane, we can take a look. Our TEEs are going to be different, okay? But they may not be as different as you think they are, and we may not be as they might be drastically lower than we would want them to be. Okay, I know they are in my case. I want my TEE a heck of a lot higher than it is because I do like to enjoy eating a lot more food than I typically do in order to maintain my physique and appearance and health. So what we typically will do is a body composition. Accurately done would be obviously preferred. That's why we choose InBody. It's the least invasive. You can find these all across the nation. You can do a search. They have a great little map that will take you to the nearest location. Contact me. We have these available here in Portland, right next to Washington Square. Okay, here's what we're looking for. We are looking for your weight, obviously, your body fat mass. Your visceral fat level is important. Okay, this is that internal body fat that's it's basically if you are at high risk for a lot of the preventable diseases, the heart disease, blood pressure issues, a lot of that is going to be right here. This visceral body fat is the dangerous one. So we want to see that visceral body fat come down. Here's our body fat percentage. This person here is 35%. You can see the tracking and how they've done over time. But what I'm really looking at for this part of the presentation is the basal metabolic rate, okay? And that is, well, Dr. Anderson talks about it, guys. Go figure, huh? So page 348, Habits of Health, the basal metabolic rate, which measures your body's basic functioning, accounts for the majority of your calories we expend on average between 65 to 70% of your total energy expenditure. It's calculated at the point when your body is in neutral resting state after a night of restful sleep in a temperate environment. Okay, on an empty stomach, it's the point at which our organs are using the least amount of energy because many people think of this as passive measurement. It's assumed that BMR is difficult to change. Nothing could be further from the truth. As the biggest component of our metabolic pie, BMR offers us a wonderful opportunity to tap into the hemogenic energy source that burns, and I think that's thermogenic. Gosh darn it. I'm going to have to redo this whole thing. That burns energy 168 hours a week. How? By ingeniously increasing the activity level and even the size of the organs to boost energy consumption. Let's look at the 2 organs that are open to this process and have the biggest appetite for calories, our muscles and our brain. Okay, so we know BMR can be adjusted. This is adjusted as you drop weight. It's adjusted as you increase muscle mass and efficiency of your body. So here's how we determine our TEE. You can go into your ordering page for your OptaVia program, go under products and programs, go to your Optimal Health 3 and 3 program, go to this section right here, which is your total energy expenditure, TEE section, put in your weight, put in your height, put in your age, and now I would encourage you to put it in as sedentary as you're coming out of your transition period. Okay, but that's like, once we figure this out, we can go the other direction too. But I mean, right now, I want to show you something. At sedentary, because if you have a tracker, if you have a fitness tracker, you will have the ability to configure how many calories you're burning on a daily basis because of your activity steps and because of your exercise. Okay, so if you just naturally select, or if you just purposely select sedentary, it's not going to over exaggerate the amount of calories. I know it would be nice, but it doesn't help you. So if I go sedentary, my basal metabolic rate is 1659. My low sedentary TEE is 1793. Okay, that's not a huge difference, and that's why you can kind of use that number right off the bat, especially if you haven't done an in-body to figure out exactly where you are. That's only 134 calories. Okay, that's almost one fueling away, right? So it's not a Big Mac, it's one fueling. So like there we go. That's where I would start. Let's say if I want to go 1800, let's just say 1800. Okay, now what do we know we would do? We would take where we ended up on our start of our transition, so the 1200 calories, and now I'm at 1800 calories, so that leaves 600 calories. And if I divided that over the next 4 weeks or so, it's going to be about 150 calories. Dr. Anderson suggested 150 calories a week until I get up to that 1800 calories. And we're going to do that by continuing to add those additional food items according to the Habits of Health Guide. So again, it's exciting because you're well on your journey of increasing this number. Once we get to 18, and chances are, like at 1800, if my physical activity is still at a normal to high level, I'm going to continue to drop body fat. If my goal is to not drop body fat any longer, I'm going to keep increasing those calories week after week until I am completely happy with the way I look and feel. And what's going to happen is, as you increase your calories, your activity is going to increase, your energy is going to increase. You're going to be able to lift more weights. You're going to be able to perform more hobbies. You're going to increase your basal metabolism because of the increased muscle mass, and because your TEE because of the increased activity, and your calories are going to continue to go up. This is what's going to allow me in maintenance, and I know people don't like that word, but if I choose to just maintain my current level, or even stay in a performance mode, I might consume 24 to 2600 calories, which should seem like a feast coming off of my 850 calorie 5-in-1. Okay, so sometimes we have to take a look back and see how far we've come and realize that when we do this in healthy whole foods, it's a lot of food. It's a lot of good healthy food. In fact, you will probably be begging to go back to 5-in-1 because it's so simple. It's so easy. Like, you don't have to cook too many meals. You don't have to wash too many dishes. You don't have to go to the grocery store that often, right? So it is simple to follow, and that's why a lot of people continue to use the fuelings indefinitely. And like I said, 2 to 3 fuelings a day for the rest of our lives. And I'm committed to that. Okay, so let's get into a couple of tips to help you out. Okay, we already know Americans underreport calories by 40%. People who are really strict on program, 15 to 25%. Okay, we can eliminate that by food tracking. Food tracking is a huge thing. Journaling, manually writing it, whatever you need to do in order to make that happen, that's what I would suggest. Our fitness tracker that I'm in love with, the one that I use, the one that all of the people around us use, is the MyZone. And the reason why is because you can use this not just in your health club or your facility. You can use it on an app. It can go with you anywhere. You can track it, but we have a really amazing community part that's built into this so that I can watch my friends' workouts. I can see if you're working with me, if we're health coaching together and we're now working into elements 17 and 18, I can see the progress that's happening I can make recommendations based on the heart rates and the type of workouts that you're doing, and we can put all the pieces together and say, I know exactly what's going on in your program. Here's your next step. Okay. This basically merges and builds all of the habits of health, your life book, and your program, your community, your support system, and brings it all together in a program that you can establish your goals and reach your goals with, and then make new goals and reach those. Okay, so that's what I love about this. So that's the My Zone. I'll put a link down below so you guys know how to do that and how you can be part of that particular group and part of that community. Let's talk about hunger signals real quickly. We talked about this in the other video, but confirmation of fat burn. If you're in fat burn, you're going to be able to control your hunger. That's just something that you'll feel in control of what that feels like versus that uncontrollable hunger where you want to eat your arm if you don't get something like right now. Okay. If you're really lean, if you're now getting under 18% body fat, ladies and guys, under 13% body fat, you don't have a whole lot of stored body fat, but I can tell you what, I've been to 2.7% body fat before, and there's not a whole lot hungrier you can be. Like I'm talking instinctually animalistic hungry at 2.7% body fat. Okay, so once again, we got to take a look, put things into perspective. Are we really hungry at 30% body fat? Okay, we've got to tap into that stored body fat. We're just fine. We could go on a stranded island. We could get stranded on an island with no food, and we're going to come off that island smaller, but we're not going to die anytime real soon, okay? Because, I mean, we'll be hungry, but we're not going to die. Okay, so specialty supplements for weight loss. There's some things that can help just make things like reduce the suffering if you feel like you are suffering. Increase the point of surrender so you are sticking to it long enough to see the fruits of your labor and then be able to continue on past that. Okay, and there's ergogenic aids that can help you with your weight training and with your exercise-induced hunger and with your protein synthesis and your muscle rebuilding and repair. So those are things that I like to get into. We got to take a look at, once you start reducing your fuelings, how are you getting those vitamins and minerals back in? How are you getting your probiotics and your vitamin D and those type of things? Where is that coming from? Because one of the reasons you were feeling so great on 5-in-1 is you had all of your vitamins and minerals accounted for. You had all of your vitamin D and your probiotics. And now that you've reduced that number down to just whole foods, we have to be very careful with the whole foods that are out there. They're not always farmed in the way that's going to give you the nutrients that were once established in the parameters that were set in the RDA, and for people who are active and physically moving and fit and that kind of thing. So, and for optimal health. Like a lot of those parameters were set for like survival, for like average person survival, and to prevent diseases from deficiencies. So like rickets and scurvy and stuff like that. Well, what if you want to be optimally healthy? You may have to find sources of vitamins and minerals that are going to be above and beyond the RDA and above and beyond the average person, which is how the RDA is established. So, all right, now, wins and victories that will support ongoing future success. We talked about that in depth last time, but how you can get successful quickly so that you are motivated and this becomes a part of your fabric, because you are successful, you know what's going on, your confidence level of how you coach, how you live life, how you inspire others is going to be enhanced because you're not confused with what's going on. If you want to have a piece of birthday cake, you don't have 1,000 different thought processes going on because you don't know what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen when I have a birthday cake. You know, I can almost visualize that. That's why I like some of those like CSI shows and stuff like that, where they go into like the bloodstream and they have all this like interior stuff going on. Like, I know what's going on when I have that piece of cake. I know what's going on to my metabolic system. I know what's going on with my digestive system, and I know how I'm going to feel. So that's no longer confusing and completely controllable, which means that when you see me not at my best, it's because I'm somewhere else. We're doing something. Like I'm not doing what I know I'm doing, or what I know I could be doing. Okay, does that make sense? Like this again is where the support materials, such as the life book, like especially, and then of course my community and my health coach. That's where that all comes in, because that's going to be between these 2 ears and what I have to start working on there in order to make sure that I'm maintaining my health on the outside. Okay. I think that's it for now, guys. I mean, there's another whole video just on Amino Boost XXL and how that can help you with the exercise-induced hunger. All right, so hopefully that wasn't just overly too direct for everybody, but you know what? Like I said, I want to get past this whole weight loss phase for everybody and start getting into this living phase so that we can go thrive in the environments and just go out there and impact other people in a positive and inspirational way. And sometimes we have to get past that initial stage. Now, that doesn't mean you have to wait. Like, you're not going to wait to until you're absolutely all the way there before you start helping other people. Okay, our program is not built that way. Our program is built to grab on to people wherever they are and wherever you are, and start helping, assisting peoples and families and communities, and start making an impact right off the bat. Okay, so again, never take any of this information that's going into these details as something that you need to know in order to help somebody. You've got everything you need in the 4 pillars, everything you need to just get started helping other people, helping yourself. So you don't need to know all this information. It will seep into your fabric as you read through the Life Book and the Habits of Health, and as you communicate with those around you, and as you experience it, as you know things to be true because of the way that you felt them as you're going through it. And then you just get a little nugget and you're like, oh, that's why that happened. That makes perfect sense. Okay, that's my goal, and that was my hope and my intention to get that out to you, so that hopefully you can have relief and comfort in how you're doing the program and how you're transitioning out of your feelings and into your performance plan, which is probably the direction most everybody's going to go, but for sure into just thriving, optimal health and well-being. All right, make it a great day, guys. Bye.